Podcast
Bum Podcast
between you and me.
between you and me.
So here we go again. Working on doing this virtual podcast, which is a new format for us, not necessarily a new format, but a new format for us. And so we're still trying to work out the kinks and the bugs. But this week we're gonna be talking about it's gonna be a dual-headed subject. The main thing I want to talk about is accountability, but under the guise of accountability, I also want to be able to touch on friendship, because I think that's how I even arrived at the subject of accountability. And so when I say accountability, what does accountability mean to you?
Accountability. Accountability is almost like dependability, with a mix of faithfulness, and just at the end of the day, it's like the way I see it is almost like it's the first person version of that. Like my ability to depend on myself or to hold
Okay.
myself, a mix of integrity. I feel like it's all those three things, but in a more talking about yourself than other people, because me being accountable is me choosing to see the role that I play, me choosing to see how I affect things, and can I be held accountable for my actions? Can I be things of that nature? So I think it's almost like a big blend of dependability and integrity.
It's kind of cool you would say that. It kind of takes me back to the RP 13 that we did for you, and those 13 watchwords that we gave.
Mm-hmm.
And so it seems like even just that little sequence that you gave just kind of, because I don't know if was accountability one. I don't even think accountability was one of them.
Dependability and I think
Dependability was,
faithfulness.
integrity was, faithfulness was.
Right.
And so it's amazing that those words actually go together to make up in your mind accountability, which I think is really cool, and I like that. And so you're right. We should first of all be accountable to ourselves. As far as this is my thought, yes, we should be accountable to and for ourselves, which means that we should hold ourselves to a higher standard than anybody else does. But that's not always the case. Sometimes we get to a point, and we kind of talked about this last week with consequences. What we can get away with, we get away with, and if we get away unscathed, then we tend to build a habit of continuing to skirt that line. You know what I'm saying? And that's not necessarily accountability. And so that was interesting, just thinking about those watchwords and how you put it, and then just thinking about, accountability starts with me. The way I actually wanted to include friendship into that, and it's almost would give you a real true expectation, if not definition of friendship, is if you have a friend, and I always tell people, humans don't possess the characteristics necessary to be friends. I talk about that sometimes, but if it's somebody that you would consider a true friend, it's almost like a self A or self B, meaning it's myself part A, myself part B.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at it
That.
from the perspective of accountability, you felt that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that I think we can really wrap some thought and words around, because again, if I'm saying accountability, most of all, accountability is a good thing, right?
Being able to be accountable is a good thing. So I
Okay.
guess yes.
And so if that's a good thing, then to and knowing that sometimes and I'll put it on men a lot. I won't say it's totally men, but I know I can speak as a man. I always say, we lack, we we don't necessarily always want to be responsible. I think it's because we feel like we always have to be. We don't always want to be responsible, and so when we can bail out on the responsibility, I think we do that sometimes. Even if it's just a momentary lapse, and man, look, I know I'm supposed to do this, but I don't want to do it. I'm just gonna sit down. I know I'm supposed to say this. I know I'm supposed to go here or whatever. We get to those points, and so if self decides I don't want to be accountable right now, having a self A or a self B, or in this case, a friend that will keep it real with you, I think then becomes a a great advocate in this
Hmm.
regard. Did that
Somebody
make
basically
sense?
to check you, to make sure that your head on straight, that you're looking at things the right way, and that you are stepping up to the plate and what you're supposed to do, doing what you're supposed to
Right,
do. And I think
right.
those are all things that a good friend will do, or a good friend should do. Um, Honestly, it's really like one of those iron sharpeneth iron situations
Yes, sir.
of just making sure um, everybody's being the best that they can be and doing what they need to do. So yeah, I can definitely see how that plays out. Friendship and accountability should go together. I agree.
So then, could your okay? I'm on the friendship side now. Could your um okay? Could a person's ability to hold you accountable and your willingness to allow a particular person to hold you accountable be used as a um, litmus test or measuring rod for whether they are a friend or not? Did that make sense? What my question was? Like, if
Y-
a person's ability to hold you accountable or your willingness to listen to them as they try to hold you accountable, could that be a litmus test for determining who's a friend or not?
Um, I think so. Uh, I feel like naturally you don't like to be checked by people that you don't feel like you're in that level of relationship with. A lot of times. Um, so I feel like if someone's trying to keep you in check and you ain't really feeling it, then you probably ain't really feeling them on that level of friendship or that level of relationship. But I also think that
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking at somebody that you're trying to be good friends with or you think is a friend, you want to check and make sure that they're actually, playing into that role as well. So I think it could be a good marker, a good litmus test for the level of relationship that you have with a person is whether or not you both hold each other accountable and whether or not you're both, um, I guess, willing and accepting of someone trying to make sure that you're being accountable or someone trying to hold you accountable, really.
And even when I asked that question, and while I'm listening to what your answer was to that question, my mind flipped to the other side, and I'm gonna get, I like to get shameless plugs sometimes, so I'm gonna give a shameless
Mm.
plug to Trombone, Mike Jones, man. This is friend from way back home, and I don't even know if you know Trombone, but um, Trombone told me years ago, if not decades ago, because this is before you were even born. He was like, "We don't have friends, we have misery lovers." I'm like, "Misery lovers? What do you mean misery lovers?" He said, "Yeah, because misery
Interesting.
love company." And
Mm-hmm.
so I see some real validity into that. And I saw validity in it when he said it. Um, and I don't think it's a sum zero, we don't have friends. But I think back to people whom I considered friends in the past. And I guess it all depends on what your level of maturity is too. And I mean, I don't mean your level of maturity in the moment, but I think back to when I was younger and I had people that I considered friends. I called friends, and I think some I even call friends to this day, but they helped me get in trouble. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And getting in trouble is not necessarily the accountable thing to do,
Right.
um, and or the responsible thing to do. But they'll egg you on to get in trouble and even be right there with you. And again, this is why I'm saying that maybe, and you can help me with this. Maybe it's because at that age we were immature, or we weren't fully matured into adulthood, and the things that we saw as being fun or risque or edgy, even though they weren't to our best benefit, they were fun. You know what I'm saying? And so maybe these guys were like, well, yeah, let's do this because it's gonna give us the ultimate rush. But then when I look back on it, 40 years later, 30 years later, it's like, oh man, that could have went way down the wrong road, and they were right there with me, egging me on to do it. I don't know if that was the accountable thing to do for them.
Yeah. Um, I think It's those type of relationships I feel like kind of happen when you're younger, and that's almost like cool when you're younger because the world is so I guess everybody's just experimenting with the world and where they lie, how far they can push the bar and that kind of thing. And so those type of relationships I think can become like I guess they grow quickly when you're younger.
Uh-huh.
But as you're looking to move on and move up in life, you need to. I watched one podcast called The Roommates, and what one of the guys talks about is he calls it is build your Avengers
Okay. Uh-huh.
because you're not a lone superhero in this world. You're not alone in this world, and the way that you level up and the way that you achieve things, all of that you do that by building the Avengers, and so building a strong team around you of people that all play a different role and play that role well. And so, yeah, you definitely want to find people like that. That's what helps you progress in life.
So even though when we're younger, it's not necessary to our benefit, it's still okay. I'm trying to give
Um,
myself a pass. I ain't necessarily talking about you. I'm talking about,
you
I'm
said you're
talking about
trying to
me.
give
Because
yourself a pass.
yeah, because I got somebody. Actually, I'm gonna bring up a person in a minute that I think fits this role perfectly, and it was sort of like a progression. And even I think I can even talk about the moment that it transitioned. But when
Hmm.
I look, and you know, and I know you're not here yet, but for me, I look back over my life sometimes, and I be like, man, I made some of the dumbest decisions, you know, and it's only by the grace of God that I haven't had to pay for some of the dumb decisions that I made. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And even to a point where wishing that I had not made those decisions because I know that some of the decisions I made affected people in a negative way. And even though they are gone and they could have forgotten about it, and we talked about this last week as well, they could have forgotten about it. But as I think about it, I'm like, man, I could have scarred that person for life, or I could have, changed that person's
Yeah,
perspective on life, and that wasn't good.
which is accountability.
Yeah,
That's self
yeah,
accountability at the end of the day. And being able
yeah,
to, um, I guess you holding yourself to your own litmus test almost.
right,
Like
right.
my morals and all of that, I may have had a lapse, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna gloss over that and act like I didn't have impact or what I did didn't have effect on the situation or even the people in the situation. And so
I
that's
like the way you
self
put.
accountability.
I like the way you put that. I like the way you put that.
I
Yeah,
appreciate it,
I
sir.
mean, yeah, and then we have to learn from that and move on. And
Hmm.
in honesty, I guess if where we are, the people that we put around us are there too. I mean, the level of accountability, if the level of accountability that they provide is the level of accountability that we expect or will accept, I guess when you're looking at a litmus test for friends, that would matter. That would matter. I was gonna bring up somebody in particular because I can remember, and simply because I saw him last week was Trevin Green. I've known Trevin Green since the very beginning. Like my first day at college, Trevin was there. I tell people I screwed up his first haircut in college, so I hope he remembered
Mm.
that. He let me cut his hair my first day in college, and I was not a barber. Um, but it's interesting that Trevin probably was with me at some of my worst moments.
Hmm.
Some moments where I did things that I shouldn't have done, and he egged me on, and probably vice versa. And if I look at it as a sum zero as a friend test, and I look at it from my 52-year-old perspective, I'd be like, man, that's the dumbest thing I could have done. And Trevin was right there with me. Trevin wasn't my friend. I don't think that would be the right way to look at it because
Hmm.
he gave me what I was expecting and what I was looking for at the time. And I transfer and I fast forward to now that Trevin is still in my life. Um, and he holds me
Oh,
accountable, and I hold him accountable in ways that are unspoken. Like I hold him accountable because he has a picture of me and who I have become, and he
hmm.
uses that as a tool or a weapon against negativity for him as he carries out his everyday life. And because he'll call me and tell me, man, I was just thinking the other day, man, I'm like, man, what would Clarence do in this situation? How did Clarence overcome this situation? And he uses that to hold him accountable. And the fact that he does that to me then holds me accountable, because I'm like, I don't want that Trevin down. You know what I'm saying? I don't want his outlook on me to be false, or his outlook on me to be fake. And so I need to make sure that I continue to do what I am and be who I am and ascribe to be who I am, so that what he sees is who I am. And so that's I guess a growth moment for me, because Trevin, again, was somebody there on the flip side who was there for me, years ago. Do or die, right or wrong, or ride or die, as has become come to be known. And now he's still there for me, even to the fact that last week he called me and was like, bro, I'm traveling through town, man. I want to go play some golf. Let's go. That kind of thing. And so, and I even remember the moment that transition kind of took place. And it took place years. Oh God, man, Trevor got some stories to tell. I just said this one just came to my mind. But I was in Cincinnati, Ohio at the time, and he came to town, and we sat down and talked for hours. And it was our first time sitting in each other's company talking. And the thing that struck him and me both about it, I think he brought it to my attention, was, bruh, do you realize we just sat down and talked about our present and our future, and we didn't have to talk about our past? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so that was like that whole mark of maturation for us. Like, yeah, we did dumb things before, but now we can plan for doing better things in the future, and we can still be in each other's lives, and again, hold each other accountable to that regard, as opposed to still trying to relive the days past and holding each other to the same standard that we held each other to when we was out making trouble.
Yeah, because that's what I was gonna speak to when you first started talking about it, but was the fact that the difference would be, because you're saying you can look back and think it was dumb, and I'm sure there's things that y'all have done that he looks back and feels the same way. And so I think that's not necessarily a test to like the level of friendship, or the positive versus the negative, the pros versus the cons of friendship. But I think that's just more to y'all both were the right people for each other at that time, because you had the similar mindsets at the time, and both of your mindsets have progressed since then. And so I don't think that that makes it negative. And pushing the boundaries when you're younger is kind of something that happens because everybody's trying to feel their way out in the world, find where they are in the world and their place. And so I think, and especially in like a college setting, with you having met him your first day, that set up a relationship and established a foundation for y'all kind of figuring out the world together.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's the fact that y'all both can have moved forward this like however many years later, and can look back and have matured since that time. And so I don't think that's a negative relationship necessarily.
Okay. And because it's important, it was important for me. It's this conversation is important for me because I was actually doing a study, and in the study it was talking about accountability, and it was asking, do I, or do whoever the reader is, have someone to hold them accountable? And so that's why I wanted to discuss this with you, because it was like, man, do I really have somebody to hold me accountable? And I got guys in my life, that I guess for different facets of my life will hold me accountable on different things. But do I invite somebody in my life? Like I got another friend, Albert, man. When it comes to the word of God, like Al is spot on. Like he'll hit you across. Well, I ain't gonna say hit you across. That's a negative connotation, but he'll remind me often of what the word of God says about how I am, or how he is, or how we should be. And so when it comes to being held accountable, like, that really is iron sharpening iron. Because when you think about iron sharpening iron, like iron sharpening iron, even the physicality of iron sharpening iron is the metal shards that are extracted when iron strikes each other. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so it sounds cliche in one hand, but if you really think about the process that's taking place in iron sharpening iron, it's really not a passe thing. It really is a intense process. And so with that being said, in the area of spirituality, Albert is one of my iron sharpening iron brothers. I mean, accountability. And as a man, like I can get to a point where I run from that, right? And I'm not saying I do, I'm just saying I can get to a point where I run from that, especially when I want to be wrong or I want to do something and I feel like Albert is going to be the man that's going to hold me accountable for that. So I'll keep this away from him. And so then that becomes a litmus test for me. It's like, am I running from accountability, right? And so these are the questions that were like coming through my head as I was going through the study. Like, am I running from accountability? And I don't think I am, but I'm just those are questions that we're asking. That's why I wanted to discuss it. Even like if you look at in the area of golf, I remember this guy's Mark James, right? Mark, I used to be a guy who never carried a driver in my bag, and Mark James called me to task on him, and Mark was like, "Bruh, how you gonna be working with you and you gonna teach them they can do anything, but you scared to carry a driver in your bag?" You know what I'm saying? Like that was accountability for me because I was like, dang, bro, you had to put it like that. But that was an iron sharpening iron moment because that was something that was really, really, it was hard for me. And I will say, I mean, to Mark's credit, and I played golf yesterday, man, and I hit my driver on probably 5 or 6 holes. Like that's the first time I've ever done that in over 20 years because I typically just carry my driver as an ornament in my bag. And so, Trevin Green told me last week, man, hit your driver. You know, I'm like, okay, whatever. Let me pull out this four iron. You know what I'm saying? And so in those areas, like, are we holding ourselves accountable to get an accountability partner, right? I know I'm always talking to you, or I can't say always, but I have talked to you in the past. I talked to you sometimes about like who you surround yourself with. Like music is your thing. Like, are you surrounding yourself with musicians, people that'll push you? You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. And so just how do you get to a point where you evaluate yourself and you hold yourself accountable for getting an accountability partner or accountability partners?
How do you hold yourself accountable for having accountability partners?
Yes. Self A,
So
self B, self C.
off rip, my first thought was putting yourself in those situations, putting yourself in those spaces where you'll find the right people you need for your journey. Because it's easy to stay amongst where you have been, but which it's funny because I was actually having a conversation with one of my friends the other day. But what I told him, I was like, we were having a conversation. I said, you know, if you went out and for like, you put in a solid effort for like 2 weeks, like just put effort, you probably have a girlfriend in 2 weeks, is what I told him. If just based off if you put action to words or action to thoughts. But it's putting yourself in that situation or in that position where you'll actually find people to talk to in order to be there. And so it's almost that same way. Like if you're looking for an accountability partner for this or somebody to help you in this space or somebody that iron sharpeneth iron in this space, you have to put yourself in that room because that's where you'll find those people. Did you have something to say?
No, go ahead.
Oh, so right. I mean, when it comes to finding the right people and maintaining those relationships, put yourself in the position where those relationships would naturally and organically develop.
So would it be fair to say that you'd have to be, and then, well, this is going to be drastic. I was going to say sick and tired of where you are, but you'd almost have to be in a position where you want to grow or be better.
Oh yeah, I mean the only way you grow in life is if you try to.
Yeah. And so, because again, I'm just so then accountability, the accountability conversation is not a conversation. It can be had with anybody, but not received by everybody.
What do you mean by that? I think I
Okay,
agree, but what do you mean?
so like if say for instance you hang with somebody, well, yeah, I'll say you because it wouldn't be me. Like, cause I told you I don't do remediation too well, but if you're hanging around somebody and they're always okay, this my mind just went 2 different places. So they're always seeking advice, but they never want to take the advice that they seek. Right? It's like, man, Just say for instance, the friend you were just talking about, whomever he is like, man, I'm lonely. Man, I need a girlfriend. Man, this, man, that about a girl and a girlfriend. And you're saying, okay, look at it from this perspective, look at it from that perspective with it. And then they do the exact opposite of what you're telling them. And it still
Mm-hmm.
yields them the same results they've always had. But then they come back to you and they, man, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, like, man, shave your beard. Well, not shave your beard, shape up your beard. Or man, cut your hair. Or man, clean your clothes. Or and I'm saying it from the perspective of if there is a physical deterrent, like nappy hair or whatever, and you're saying, man, this is what you should do if you want to find this type of person, and they're refusing to do that thing. I said that because it's easier to see physical than it is to see um uh intangible stuff.
Right.
Like trustworthy. And so if you have somebody and they are saying that they don't like where they are and they want to go to a different place, but they want put themselves in around people who will hold them accountable for doing the things that they spoke that they wanted to do, or B, whenever they're around them, they dismiss what they're being, advised on, told, helped, whatever. Because they're more comfortable where they are than they want to change.
Mm-hmm. What was the
So
question in that?
yeah, no, man, I forgot my original question. So my question is, so what I was saying was, so accountability is a conversation that can be had with everybody, but not necessarily listened to or accepted by everybody. Like you could talk to I could talk to you about accountability, but if you don't want to be held accountable, I mean,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
it's work. Yeah.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, not everybody can hold you accountable, and you can't hold everybody accountable. Because if you don't care, then you don't care. Like
Right.
if I just don't, your opinion doesn't rock me that much, doesn't make me feel like I need to move, then I'm not gonna move. Kind of thing.
I'm not even necessarily talking from that perspective, but that's a good point. That's a good point. I'm not even talking about from that perspective, though. Yeah, that's somebody who's defiantly like it. Honestly, like when I was talking about in our heyday, I mean, if Trevor would have been saying like, Clarence, you need not to do X, you need to do Y, I'd be like, boy, look, go, you go. I'm gonna go do what I want to do. That's one thing.
Exactly.
And so from that perspective, I don't want to be held accountable. You're absolutely right. I don't want to be held accountable. And so there's nothing that anybody's going to say to me that's going to make me be held accountable.
Right.
I don't want to be
Or
held
maybe
accountable.
it's just not that person. Because I mean, I think there's somebody. I think for everybody, there's people out there that can hold you accountable and you listen. It just takes the right scenario. Well, I mean, it really takes the right scenario in the right place of life, the right mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if you're trying to help somebody to progress and they don't want to progress and they don't hold themselves accountable or allow others to hold them accountable, then there's nothing you can do. There is no changing that situation because it's an internal situation. That's not something that you
So,
can affect for them.
so let me go back to my original question then, because I mean, I'm feeling what you're saying. And as a matter of fact, when you said it, there were a couple of things that came to mind that I was like, man, even in my heyday, man, somebody held me accountable for this. And I was like, I better buckle down and do it. And it's because I put a level of respect on it coming from them, or a level of importance coming from them that I didn't put on somebody else. I didn't extend to somebody else. I put it like I didn't extend that same level of respect to somebody else, but somebody different could come to me and say the same thing and hold me accountable for the same thing. And I in an instant, I do exactly what it was. And so
Like a
with that being, go ahead.
like a professor or a mentor or something like that.
No, we ain't talking about like that, but yeah, okay. um, I mean, I could see that being a scenario too. That I could see that. No, explain that to me.
I mean, like there's certain people like some things you want to listen to from your friends with somebody that plays more of that role of like the mentor or helping you out is somebody that you would listen to.
No, not even like that. Because that's I don't know if that's as much respect that it is reverence, right? Um,
Reverence is
I'm saying,
respect.
huh?
Reverence is
So what?
respect.
Yeah, but on a different level, right? So I'm saying, like, say for instance, let's use you for an example, right? Because in some regards, you're an accountability partner for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say, that wouldn't work. let's just say Trevin. All right, I'll use Trevin. Trevin says, Clarence, you hard-headed. You need to listen to your doctor because your doctor tells you, blah, 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 and your doctor got your best interest at heart. And I'm like, man, screw that. I'm going to eat sweets. I'm going to eat fries. I'm going to eat starch. I'm going to eat everything else, right? And then T comes along and T says, Dad, your doctor says X, Y, and Z. You need to do what your doctor says because these are going to be the negative impacts. What makes me listen to T when I wouldn't listen to Trevor?
You asking me that?
Yeah. What makes me listen to T when I wouldn't listen to Trevor?
That's a question for yourself.
If you could put yourself in the same situation, because I'm not talking about, because the scenario that you gave me, you're talking about like a peer versus somebody who is subordinate. You're a subordinate too, right? And so there's a difference. That's why I said reverence versus respect, because it was somebody that you're subordinate to that you're saying what they said carry more weight than what a peer says. That's an easy thing to see. What I'm saying is, and in my case, I was talking about a subordinate versus a peer, but I was saying on the other level, I'll listen to a subordinate before I listen to a peer, which probably wouldn't happen. But if you had two peers, like, what would make you listen to one peer but not the other peer? That's the ultimate question. Like, what would make me listen to Ricardo and not listen to Alex?
I ain't gonna hold you, my man. You need to stop name dropping.
I mean, I was making names up, man.
But if you I think it's just the role they play in your life. Honestly, what Avenger are they? If because if you have somebody that because we establish role players in our lives, different people in your life, or you have a relationship with them based on different things, and so I'll listen to friends, and like there may be one friend that I typically listen to for something like this, but I don't see any like this isn't his area anymore. It's almost like, say I'm a lawyer and my friend's a doctor. Some things I would talk to my doctor friend about, but if he came and tried to give me advice based on being a lawyer, or maybe advice based on being a fireman or something like that, then that's not your area of expertise, to me at least. So I don't necessarily see that as like, I may, chew the fish, spit out the bones type thing, but I don't think it's like, oh, he know what he talking about. You right. I need to listen to that, because in my head, oh, that's not the role you play.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
That makes full sense. That's what that could be.
Okay, that makes full sense. Because I really was struggling with that. I'm like, how can I allow one person to hold me accountable? I think, you know what, my biggest struggle with that would be the unique scenario I was thinking about. It wasn't even that deep. It was just, I don't know. I think it came from a place of sincerity, right? Mm-hmm. It was like, I think this person sincerely had held this belief, and this person sincerely wanted to hold me accountable in this area authentically, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to somebody else who said it, but it was tongue in cheek. They were no more convicted about it than I was. They just knew it was better for me. So it's like you telling me, you need to go to the doctor, but you telling me I need to go to the doctor because you're looking at the calendar, and the calendar say I need to go to the doctor. Or your mom saying you need to go to the doctor because I know you ain't been feeling well. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's like I listen to your mom because she has insight and knows that I haven't been feeling well, and it just kind of connects with me more than somebody just saying, well, because the calendar says you need to go to the doctor, you need to go to the doctor. So maybe that is the scenario. Okay. All right. Again, I just want to have this conversation because, again, I know that I can get to a place where I can hide from accountability. I can hide from accountability and hide from accountability partners. And I don't want to get to that place. And at the same token, I think as my life progresses, as my area of expertise and my areas of influence, as my as Jabez says, as my territory expands, I need to have people that can hold me accountable in areas that are different from areas that I've been in and been held accountable for before. And so, what is it that keeps me seeking accountability partners so that I can make sure that I don't try to skirt, skirt whatever.
What
Be
keeps you
accountable to myself.
searching for
Say what?
accountability partners?
Say that again.
What keeps you wanting to search for accountability partners?
No, I was saying that's why I would have this conversation because I wanted to actually get to a point, yeah, where I keep I'm honest with myself. I stay honest. I stay, it's one thing to say you want to get better, but you can't get better if you only listen to yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
what it
so,
is at the end of the day. Do you want to get
yeah,
better? And if the answer is yes, and you still don't want to change, then the answer is really no. That's the bottom line at
okay.
the end of the day. If you're not changing, it's because you don't want to, no matter what you
Because you
say
don't
in
want
your
to
head.
take it, yeah, because you can always find somebody to hold you accountable.
It might not
So
be
you
easy,
can,
but if you're really looking for it, you'll find it.
okay, okay.
hmm
So any parting shots on accountability?
Um, I think accountability is important. One of my biggest pet peeves about a person is lack of self accountability. The
Mm-hmm.
lack of personal accountability and being able to see your role in things. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. Um, so accountability is huge, and not even on just like um, how I was talking like a relational way, or like I don't want them to see me this way, so I need to be accountable. But really, just being able to depend on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
being able to trust in your own integrity. Um, I think accountability is good for that because if I can't hold myself accountable, then that's a whole spiral into how do I feel about myself? What's my relationship with myself? Because the biggest thing you can do to respect yourself is do what you say that you're going to do. And if you don't do that, you start
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to cause a gap between who you really are in the real and who you want to be in the ideal, and
Uh-huh.
that's a scary, that's a powerful, um, that's a powerful space, and I think that's the space the majority of people live in, and it's almost like a
Uh-huh.
consistent splitting headache is how I would describe that. And so I think that one of the most beneficial things, among one of the most beneficial things, and one of the things that you should do for yourself out of respect for yourself, is to hold yourself accountable for things.
So then it's true to say if you don't want to hold yourself accountable, you're not gonna put yourself around people that will hold you accountable.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
so.
All right.
If
I'm
you don't
feeling
want to
that.
be
I'm
held
feeling that.
accountable, yeah.
I'm feeling that because yeah. And then when you find yourself running and hiding from people because you don't want to be held accountable, then you need to check yourself.
hmm Because I feel like I mean, I feel like that's something that we do as humans a lot. Like we'll be thinking some way, and it just takes a lot for us to move in general. But
Mm-hmm.
we'll have like these back burner thoughts, things that come up every once in a while that you just kind of push them back down. You just kind of brush them aside instead of taking
Mm-hmm.
action based off of them. And so I think that's one of those things.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm big about, man. Is holding the mirror up, man. Like, put that mirror up there. Put that mirror up there. All the mirror gonna do is tell you what it can see. That's it. You can decide whether you want to believe it or not, but it's gonna tell you what it sees. So,
hmm
all right, cool the game, cool the game. Well, man, I appreciate you talking to me about accountability and friendship because I wanted to sort some things out, and I think you helped me sort some things out. Yeah,
hmm
yeah. So, I guess look for accountability. First, hold yourself accountable, then find an accountability partner.
Yeah, you have to be accountable to yourself first. Because
Yeah,
if you don't check yourself, if you're not real with yourself, if you can't be real with yourself, then nobody can. You won't listen to it because you're fake.
yeah. I was thinking that, man, you can't be with yourself. You're a fake brother.
Right. So yeah, if you can't be real with yourself, you're not gonna find anybody to be real with you, because for one, your energy won't attract that, and you won't be looking for that anyway.
Yeah, yeah. That's good stuff. That's good stuff, man. That's good stuff. I do got one more thing to say though. which is it just hit me. Because that's one thing I'm always, when I'm talking to people, I'm like, look, first of all, the only way I can help you is if you're real with me. Because like if you showing me a fake you, then the help that I'm giving you is to help the fake you, and it'll never apply to the real you. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, so in order to be an accountability partner, an effective accountability partner, the person that you're trying to hold accountable has to show you the real them and not the ideal them, like you just said.
Yeah.
Cool game. All right, I'm good, man. I'm good. You good?
I'm good.
All right, Bum Podcast.
Bum Podcast.
Between you and me.
Between you and me. Holla.